Oh, I look all naked now. I had my haircut and my fluff chopped off, all for good reason. So a quick little update video on the Micra. There wasn't a video last week because I had caught what I'm going to dub the Scottish AIDS from when we did last time we had a lot of gelly, and it completely knocked me out. I was off work for 2 days and horrendous cough, which has absolutely knackered my throat and my voice box. So got to a point where I could just about talk a bit to at least get a bit of content out to you guys. So yeah, here's the Micra. We did the track day at Brighton and the sprint at Cadwell. Now, coming back from Cadwell is we developed quite a few issues with the car. The first thing is the idle. So throughout the day, the idle of the engine got higher and higher and higher. So I think at one point in that last run, the idle was at 1800 RPM. Now, very basic system on here is we obviously got electronic throttle, so that meant we had a vacuum leak somewhere, and I correctly guessed that we had cracked the inlet manifold open again. So I whipped the inlet manifold off, took it over to the fabrication bench, and I repaired it to the best of my ability. I think at some point we're going to have to redesign the inlet manifold and go all billet. Obviously my material selection isn't the best. I know a lot of you expressed that concern when I first made that inlet manifold, but by the time you had seen the inlet manifold, I'd already made it, so it is what it is. Live and learn. We're going to look at maybe do some sort of billet inlet manifold some point later on this year for reliability. Other small thing was the throttle pedal. And it has this like little plastic pad which was always coming off the pedal, leaving me with just the rod to hold my foot on. So I've welded a piece of steel to it, put some grip tape on it. She's going nowhere. That solves the throttle pedal. The other issue was the drive shaft. I snapped the drive shaft on the Saturday, brought it back to the shop, repaired it, went back to Cadwell on the Sunday, and then obviously put it back together a tad too long, so we had a lot of vibrational issues. So one of the first things I did when we got back is we whipped the shaft off, and I sent that shaft back to Satchels to have a brand new solid unit made. And quite interestingly, the shaft had also started to banana. Hopefully I can find a bit of footage. I took the iPhone when we took the shaft off, and you'll see just how bent it is. And that's just literally just by doing really 8 laps of Cadwell Park. So we're going to sort that out ASAP. The other major issue is clutch. Now, the clutch has always been a bit of an issue with this car since I built it. If you don't know the story, is we have got a gearbox off a 1.8 Primera, which has got the same gear set as like an SR20 Almera Primera, but the bell housing is different to suit this engine and also the Micra engines. We did that for a stronger box for reliability. In hindsight, I kind of wished I'd kept with the Micra box to start with, see how we got on, and then changed over to the bigger box if we needed it, but we're here now. But the issue we've got is we keep stretching clutch cables. I'm having to replace a clutch cable every 2 or 3 meetings, and as you can probably see here on the clutch cable now is I've already got a load of washers packed in, but I'm out of adjustment on this cable because it's stretched. So the solution to that would be convert it back to hydraulic. But I cut all of the innards out of the hydraulic system when we converted it to cable. So I bought another 1.8 Primera gearbox with all of its hydraulic stuff on there. So at some point we're going to convert this gearbox back over to hydraulic. I've bought all the bits and bobs, so we've got a new slave cylinder in here, and then hopefully that's going to stop the issues with the clutch. Why are we stretching clutch cables? Well, I put a stage 4 clutch in there thinking that we would do a lot more torque than what we were doing now. I'm pretty sure that clutch is rated for 450 foot-pounds, and we're not quite there yet. So might be eventually, but maybe 300 foot-pounds at a push. My options is go hydraulic or put another clutch in it, maybe a lesser duty clutch rated for less torque. But I think either way, I think converting the gearbox back to hydraulic is going to be the key. I've already started to get some components for that. I've got a spare K11 clutch pedal, and what we'll do is we'll convert this pedal to activate a hydraulic cylinder. Now, the issue I've got with the master cylinder is that because of the inlet manifold design, the master cylinder will not fit inside the engine bay traditionally. So I'm going to have to mount the cylinder on the inside of the car facing towards the driver. Now the key thing is that we're not allowed fluids inside the car, so I've already confirmed it's fine that we can have the cylinder there. We've just got to remotely mount the reservoir, which you've got plenty of room up here to do so. Other issue from Cadwell is the steering, and now I put a post up of this clip of me pirouetting into Hall's Bend, and I just got hundreds and hundreds of armchair racers telling me that I'm feeding the steering wheel. Well, of course I'm feeding the steering wheel. The lock to lock on this is absolutely ridiculous. Look at that. Steering ratio is absolutely horrendous. Now this isn't a Super S rack, this is just a generic like Micra non-power steering rack. It's built to be ratioed for comfort and ease of steering. It's not designed to be doing quarter turns on the circuit. Now, a bit limited with options on the rack on this. I believe this is a 3.2, 3.3 rack. The Super S one is slightly less, like 3.1 turns lock to lock. Someone will probably correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm pulling these numbers from what I remember. Now, a quick rack for these, which is 2.2, is £1,000.
Pound or pence?
And I am not spending £1,000 on a quick rack, regardless if we need it or not. So I've got a few little bits and bobs sort of tucked away, which we're going to do in a separate video. We'll talk a bit more about this particular piece of machinery in that video. And we've got a Clio 197 E-Pass system to go in as well. The same system and rack that Elliot is running, which is why we're going to run the same thing. What other issues did we get from Cadwell? Oh, we bent the splitter. Not on the circuit, so on that second stage, when we exited the circuit, we exited onto a gravel track, and that had quite a drop, and that's where the splitter got damaged. So gonna have to sort that out for Cadwell, because at the minute we have got 4 weeks and I'm going away for a week, so not ideal. Other than that, is the road salt is absolutely mullered the car. Everything that was been pristine for 2 years is now rotten and started to rust, so gonna have to do a bit of clean up with that. So when I get back from my little holiday, I've got 2 weeks to get this car done. So we've got a few upgrades other than the things we've got to do already for rounds 1 and 2 at a time at Cadwell. And that is, we're going to try and make this car handle a bit better. So the first thing I've done is order some new tyres. Obviously we need some new tyres anyway. This Micra wants to understeer a lot. Not through torque steer or anything, it just understeers, which is, you know, counterintuitive to what a K11 is known for, which is go-kart handling. And I think that's down to the wide body and the wide wheels are running. So to try and make the car rotate a bit more, we are going from a 225 to a 245 on the front, and then on the rear we're going from a 225 to a 205. So we're going up a size on the front, down a size on the rear, and my thought process is that's going to help the car rotate a bit more. We'll find out if that's going to do it or not. Second thing, I've never really been happy with how this car handles, especially with the new power it's got. Now, after speaking to a few people, we've put that down to the fact that we have altered the motion ratio of the suspension quite a bit. Now, what the motion ratio is, in layman's terms, it's the relation of the damper to the arm to the centre point of the wheel. And because we are running these 15x8s 0 offset, with these extra wide arches and stuff, we've quite dramatically altered the motion ratio of the suspension, and we have this weird oscillation movement on the suspension. It's more apparent on left-hand corners, and that's where this wheel lifts off the surface. Then as the suspension fights to level out the car, it contacts the road surface, and then as it contacts the surface, as it's spinning, it sort of like chucks itself back up, and then we end up going through this weird bouncing motion with the suspension. Unfortunately, our factory who manufacture our coilover systems is going to be difficult to make anything. So I've spoken with a well-known suspension manufacturer, in the UK. We have discussed the car's weight, my weight, what we use on the car, what tyres we're using. I've sent them evidence of what the car's doing, and they said yes, we can fix that for you. And they have built me a custom set of suspension, and that's actually due here next week. So these little bad boys will be up for sale if anyone is interested. Other than that, cardboard prep, we need to put some decent oil back in it. We need to make a new wing on the CNC for it as well. I'll do that one night when I come back from the Holly Bobs. There's also a bigger list of stuff that needs doing to the car overall, but I'm going to prioritise what we actually need to get this car competing at rounds 1 and 2 at Time Attack in 4 weeks' time. So I'm going to quickly answer a question that people kept asking, based off a comment or a dig that I'd made in a previous video, and that is, you know, I said that we weren't doing Time Attack this year, so why are we doing Time Attack this year? Well, Time Attack had released the regulations extremely late, like embarrassingly late. Other championships are getting their regulations before their season had ended last year. We're getting our regulations with 8 weeks to go before the season starts, which is, quite frankly, it's embarrassing. It's no good. But they changed some rules in there. The wording was a bit odd. Long story short, it meant that the car I'd built for the Pocket Rocket class was now no longer eligible for the Pocket Rocket class. Quite simply, they have tried to put a stop to engine swaps now. When the Pocket Rocket class first come about, it was about hot hatches, Peugeot 205s, 106 GTIs, basically quick cars out the factory, and then it evolved into this sort of like class where aero was allowed and engine swaps were allowed. But they had changed the regulations, and they had tried to put a stop to interracial engine swaps. And what I mean by that is you could only swap a Nissan engine into a Nissan chassis, Toyota to Toyota, Honda to Honda, Ford to Ford. So it would stop people putting like K20s in Ford Fusions, Ford Fiestas, Clios, for example. Now, it didn't stop us doing what we've done here, which is put Nissan to Nissan, but a second rule change revolving around the aspiration. So if I was swapping in a non-turbo engine, the engine had to remain non-turbo. If I swapped in a turbo engine, it could stay turbo. What I wasn't allowed to do was swap in a non-turbo engine and turbocharge it like we have done here. And again, that ruled too many cars out of the class. So they had a massive backpedal on that rule change and reverted back to the 2022 rule set on that. So that means our car is eligible for Pocket Rocket again, where we're sort of midfield. We're going to try and aim to get a bit higher up the field this year. But otherwise, I'd have had to go into like Club Pro because of all the aero and stuff, and I've been up against Darren Spooner's 600 horsepower 205, Iliar's soon to be 600 horsepower Clio as well. So 300 horsepower in that class just isn't going to cut the mustard, and we have not got the time, not got the budget to make more power out this engine at this time. And a third rule change regarding the control tyre also put a bit of sour taste into, I'll say almost all, but I'm pretty confident to say all competitors, which they also then had a massive back pedal on as well. So we're going to do as much as we can this year. I've got a few events planned this year which is going to clash, but I hope that answers your question to the whole Time Attack entry thingy-diggy. So there we have small little update on the week K11 Micra. I'm filming like 4 different videos in the background. We're also working with some new partners, which I'm extremely excited to work with, because it's going to change what we do to these cars in this workshop, and I can't wait to show you what we're going to do. If you don't know what that announcement is, head over to the community page on the YouTube channel, and there's an announcement in there. I'm going to make a formal announcement once we've got all the bits and bobs, but yeah, really excited for that one. But yeah, we've got 4 or 5 videos filming on the background on various different projects. So as well as the videos we're going to be doing on the modifications, we're going to be doing to this. So yeah, any questions, pop them down below, I'll answer them for you. Other than that, like, share, subscribe, tell your nan, love you, see you, bye. See you in the next video.